I mean, there's a reason it's number one. It's a really good show. I won't spoil much, but just watch it if you haven't. They made the TV equivalent of the Toyota Camry, or the Pentel P207, or Bojangles, or the damn chocolate chip cookies that come in the tube. It just took something that was made with a lot of heart and made it accessible to everyone who wanted to go after it. And I wanted to make something from it. As an engineer with no inherent artistic ability, I've always been amazed by cosplay. One day I want to make something large that will cause a small, niche subreddit to lose their minds, but for now I wanted something approachable, something obtainable. Originally I was going to design Al's helmet, but after seeing so many amazing versions online, I was somewhat discouraged since the challenge was already solved. If you saw the thumbnail, odds are you know this good egg. He just cares, and that makes me care. So I'm going to learn how to make his gauntlets today. We're going to split the gauntlet into 4 main sections: the knuckles, the hand and wrist guards, how we connect between each individual part, and how we attach the final assembly to your hand and wrist. To start this off, I wanted to try a new tool, and was planning on 3D scanning my hand to design the first few prototypes. This went terribly. I've seen some great work done with these tools, so I know it's the painter, not the brush, but damn, that was horrifying. We went with manual measuring and printed out a trial template at 2mm thick. I tried it out and adjusted the size, then ran to Michael's for leather and glue as the next version printed. Fitment wasn't terrible. I adjusted and made a print with intent for assembly. I cut and glued leather for the first time, and despite cutting myself and feeling uncomfortable working without training, I still was able to put the entire version together in a half hour. Using nails to connect one end of the strap to the other, V2 was looking great. Then I realized I couldn't bend my fingers. Version 3 included small dimensional changes and a longer distance between the hand and the knuckles. The way I was connecting each segment was just by shoving a glue-covered leather into a hole with no clearance, and it just seemed to work. I was happy with the fit, added the art elements to the back of the hand plate, and went for the build. When making this, the hardest decision was to either start with gluing and then paint, or to paint and then sand down sections of it for glue. I overthought it for about a week before I remembered that painter's tape exists for a reason, and assembled and glued the final version before painting. Instead of nails, for the final design I chose Chicago screws to fasten down the straps.
Why do they call them Chicago?
Because you can't call them sex bolts.
With masking tape and a box cutter, I did a poor job of covering the leather before spraying on the first Gauntlet's paint. I feel that one day I'll have the courage to paint and enamel projects by hand, but for now I'll use the lack of space in my apartment to justify spraying paint on my balcony. Luckily, the bleed-through from the heavy layering wasn't the end of this iteration, so I kept forward progress. This is the first time I've tried something like this, so my main goal is calling it done, so I have the courage to make the next one even better. There are pens used in the Gundam build space that are typically used for fine details and outlines like those on the back of this gauntlet. But I used a thin-tip Sharpie. You'll also notice that on the right hand I ended up leaving off the knuckle-to-hand connection, but leaving the slot in case I wanted to add it later. I'm really content with how my first attempt at these turned out. I wouldn't say I love the results, but the fact that I made something that functions as intended makes this a success. Now let's see how strong they are. These could definitely do some damage. There's no functional cushion or wrist guards, so when I hit this cantaloupe, all of the force went directly into the bones of my fingers. Luckily, Newton's third applied, and with 4 points on the other end, this was a pretty fair trade. They cut about 5mm deep, and you could see some onion got pressed almost a centimeter in. The best part was that the gauntlets didn't take any damage during this at all, and this wasn't the first take. Reflecting, there's a ton of improvements I can make on this project. Let's break them down into 3 groups. First is refinement. It's a tactile item. It's going to push into your skin, shift as you move your hand around, and be right there as you scroll on your phone between recordings. And when making a handheld item, the level of quality is going to have to increase. This means more sanding, more fine layers of paint, and more care with your final execution. I know it'll always look great hung on my wall from 15 feet away, but the challenge for next time will be ensuring consistency when it's up close as well. Next is material. I really want to learn how to cast. I think it'd make me a better engineer and designer, but being blocked by California Penal Code 21810 meant that I couldn't make these out of metal. Maybe in a future iteration I can make these out of molded plastic, but with this being planned as a non-functional one-off, there's no real need to push that for now. Additionally, the leather at the wrist is natural and the graining on that is perfect. However, the knuckle-to-hand connection is thinner and faux, and if I'll have to choose pleather in a future project, I know to go with something you know will provide that fibrous, natural feel. Third, I need to do a better job of understanding human biology. Hands are strange. There's 34 muscles in each and they're all pointing in different directions. Cover them all with a flexible sheet with webbing between the digits, and making something that's geometrically simple to cover it all comfortably is nearly impossible. Obviously, the animated reference for this doesn't have to obey the laws of geometry or biology, but I could work harder at splitting the difference between the two of them. From this project, I've been able to learn that the way we interact with materials can be entirely dependent on what their properties are. Then, when we combine them, we can come up with some pretty neat tricks. I think for the next project I want to do something silly. No focus on clean coats of paint or drawing over the lines, but we'll just have to see what that is.
Respectable muscles.